Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me. And I just want to introduce you. So you're Sarah Peyton, and you are the author of, well, the book that I've read anyways, The Resonant Self.
Yes.
And it's very, very much simplifying, but it's about this idea that when we can bring warmth and empathy and compassion to the parts of us that hold pain or difficult feelings, or are critical, for example, that's when things can start to shift for us, and we can experience growth and healing.
Yes, and the neuroscience of self-compassion.
Yes, exactly. The neuroscience of self-compassion. And just for anyone who's watching our conversation, I'm Alexandra Stevens. I'm a Gestalt therapist, EMDR therapist, also do IFS, and so I very much work with attachment trauma. And I contacted you because I am in the process of writing this book. You don't have to abandon yourself to belong.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean, I've just finished reading your book, and like your book just dovetails completely with everything I'm writing about. I mean, I literally feel like I could just take all the neuroscience theory, lift it straight from your book. Not that I'm going to do that, and apply it to what I'm writing about. Yeah. So I wanted to say, first of all, just how I, really, really, really appreciated reading the book. And I felt uplifted and energized having read it, because I feel like it gives a tangible tool, so to speak, as well, of how to work with those parts and critical parts or ashamed parts, etc. And I have been using it, and I have been working with it. And I feel like already I can feel a difference for me, but also in how I work with, also in just being with my clients. So I really wanted to, I'm not just saying this, I really wanted to acknowledge that this feels like a really, really helpful book.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah. And also just the way you write, or the way you neuroscience, even though I've, taken classes in it and have done it as part of my trainings, it never really sticks. What I mean, the brain, the model of the brain and all the different parts, it never really sticks. So the way you just describe it, write about it so simply, or you make it seem simple, just helped some of the brain model to stick a bit more, and to actually retain some of the stuff that you talked about. Yeah. So I wanted to appreciate that about your book as well. And then, I had some questions as well, which if I may ask you, I suppose before I do though, maybe could ask you to maybe say a bit more about, I know you do talk in the book, but how you got the idea to write the book, and how is it that you got interested in the topic in the first place?
Well, I was interested in the topic because I was experiencing the beautiful effect of nonviolent communication on my brain. And I was like, something is changing. Here I am. I was probably 45 at that point. And I was like, something is changing. My brain is changing. How can this be happening? My brain has never changed before in 45 years. I've just been stuck with the same difficulties, the same traumas, the same dissociation. And when my brain started to change, it was sort of coincidentally at the end of the decade of the brain in the United States, which was the 1990s to 2000, where for the first time universities received funding to buy functional MRI machines, and were able to start to look at how we impact each other in relationship. And so there was something for me to look at, whereas if I'd started to have that question 10 years before, there wouldn't have been any research to look at. But now there was real research to look at that showed what was happening when other people were really with me instead of giving advice. Giving advice and analyzing and providing a reframe, that was my entire experience of relationship before I got involved in nonviolent communication. And so And so I began to research, and then I began to talk about the research in the NBC circles that I was in. I was teaching nonviolent communication in prison at that point. And so I started bringing in the neuroscience and the neuroscience of trauma and the neuroscience of brain change. And I was in a women's prison, and the women in the women's prison were like, this is really great. Let's talk about the neuroscience. So I got all this practice talking about the neuroscience and putting it in the context of nonviolent communication. And then I started to write a book when I was 50. Three of my friends said, you have to write a book. So they came over to my house, and we put all these pieces of paper on the floor of all the things that needed to be in the book. And they said that they would meet with me once a week for a year. And they did. They did meet with me for once a week for a year. And then I still hadn't finished the book. And they were like, okay, you're on your own now. We gave you a year. So I think it took another 4 years after that. Or 3 maybe. And then I got to submit it to Norton, who loved it, but then they discovered that I didn't have a PhD. So then they asked me to have it read by a neuroscientist. So I did, and he was very kind, and he read it from Norton. He was like, yeah, this works. And there we were. Yeah.
Wow. Is that Dan Siegel or the neuroscientist or someone else? Because you mentioned Dan in your book.
Is Alan somebody? But yes, Dan Siegel's been very important to the formation of ideas of how we heal.
Wow, that's really inspiring to hear, even your writing journey there, and that you don't have a PhD. Personally, I think who cares, but I know that it's still there can be status around them, right? So it's good to hear that you're able to get it out anyway, and what you said about the origins of it. And what you said about your own experience with therapy and how the game changer was when you had someone who didn't just offer you reframes. Is that what you're saying, when you had someone who really seemed interested in you and had a warm, empathic,
was able to wonder about, to be able to make good guesses about why I might feel the way I felt.
And that reminds me, actually, as I was reading the book, I was like, wow, this also reminds me of Gestalt therapy. I don't know if you know much about that at all, Gestalt therapy.
Well, I've watched Fritz Perls on, YouTube, but I don't know. And some of my very best friends are Gestalt therapists.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, it's moved on from Fritz Perls because everyone thinks about him sort of being quite harsh with his client. But the relational Gestalt therapy is very much the idea that healing happens in relationship, and it's about really sharing what's happening for me right now as I'm listening to you, and sharing what's happening in my body, or saying I feel warm towards you, whatever. And so I just thought, wow, that's what you're talking about.
That's
as well.
Cool.
Yeah. But what I'm interested in with specifically also with what you talk about in your book is that it's also the relationship we have with ourselves. And that we can also foster that warmth for ourselves.
And sometimes people are so scared of other people that they can't even relax with a really great Gestalt therapist. They need a preliminary step beforehand, to be able to get enough solid ground to enter a relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I also found lots of similarities with internal family systems as well. I don't know if someone said that to you before, but this whole idea that we befriend our parts, we feel compassion for our parts, like our shameful parts or our anxious parts, and then because they have that compassion, they sort of relax and
something changes.
Something changes, And I was thinking, well, that's exactly what you're talking about as well.
I often think about the ways that we humans heal as being kind of like an orange, and each different segment of the orange. There's IFS, there's Gestalt, there's resonant work, which is my work, and they all meet in the center, and that wonderful the white stuff that's in the center, and it's the web that holds everything together, and it's the white in the center. It's like the connective tissue of the orange is the universal quality of healing.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Well said. And makes me think that, whatever the discipline, well, in therapy anyway, I think the evidence shows it's less about the discipline, it's more about the relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Which fits with your resonance work. Yeah, it's about having that person there, whoever, whether it be a therapist or parent or friend, that is able to bring that warmth and understanding and curiosity. Yeah. So I was wondering then, because I was thinking about my book and your book, and well, the book that I'm trying to write, and I was thinking, I wonder how you would define self. Because my book is about how we abandon ourselves, and I was wondering, how would you define, or neuroscience define self?
Well, there's a kind of a whole network of brain areas that light up when we ask somebody to think about the self, that are universal in all cultures that they've looked at and measured. And these are areas in the brain that lie along the midline of the brain in both hemispheres. And so, sort of I suppose I would say that the self is the unifying sense of the collected experience, or the unified sense of the collective experience of everything that somebody has lived through and the way that they've made sense of it.
The unifying and sense of the collective experience of everything that person has lived through and how they make sense of it. And that includes all the different brain networks that will be involved in that, like the default, the DNA, etc.
It's important to have a body, for example. To have a sense of a distinct body, and that's sort of like a container within which these collected experiences happen.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the body, it's the experiences, it's how the different networks in the brain make sense of those experiences.
It's the collection of everything that anyone has ever done with us. So the metaphor I love is because I love croissants, but the metaphor I use and love is the metaphor of croissants and croissant dough. That you take the croissant dough and you roll it out and you spread butter on it. And then you fold it over and you roll it again and you spread butter on it, and you fold it over and roll it again. And the more times you fold it and roll it, the richer, fluffier, more delicious the croissant is. And that's the same thing for our sense of self. We have an experience, and somebody like a beautiful Gestalt therapist comes and acknowledges our experience and understands it with us, and we roll it over and we go out and we have another experience, and we get more responsive understanding, and we fold it. And that's what a really juicy, satisfied sense of self is. And if we never get any butter on our croissant dough, if we never get any resonance, then croissant dough ends up, it's just a lump. It's a tired, flattish lump of dough that has no differentiation and is not a croissant. And so, yes, we need to have the relational connection in order to have a rich and satisfying sense of self.
Yeah, I like them. I like the metaphor. It's easy to understand. So we need the person that puts the butter on to make us fluffy and delicious. I'm also learning how to make croissants. I didn't know that. Good to know. So in that case, how would you define? I know I'm trying to. This is not necessarily how you phrase it in your book, but how would you define abandoning oneself in terms of the way you talk and
let's see. In abandoning ourselves, abandoning ourselves is a primary human sort of survival mechanism. Because we have these experiences. I always love to use a cello for this particular metaphor. So we have an experience, and you probably won't be able to hear the string. You might be able to. Can you hear that? So there's an emotional experience that we have.
Yeah.
Now, in order to be self-regulated and have an easy time with emotional experiences, we need to have neurons that help us to hold those emotions and understand them and have warmth for them. If we don't have those neurons, then what we have to do is we have to put down the part of ourselves that had the emotional experience, and we have to turn away from it.
Okay.
In order, we have to kind of, in a way, dissociate from it or pretend it doesn't exist, in order to be able to move forward. Because otherwise we're completely debilitated by that emotional experience that can't be integrated. So we're in a continual dance of self-presence and self-abandonment. And it isn't a volitional act, it's a mechanical act of survival. A mechanical act of survival that we do in order to be able to manage life without support. Life where we don't have the Gestalt therapist, where we don't have a best friend, where we don't have a mom who gets it.
Yeah, we're just too young. Yeah, we could be babies, we could be infants. And sorry, I've had to put my headset on because my child is screaming in the background with her nanny. Don't worry, but I just want to avoid some background noise. She's okay. She's with her nanny. Yeah, but yeah, I guess she's going to have an experience where she's crying for whatever reason and she's being soothed. But I think you're saying that if a child doesn't get that or regularly doesn't get that, then what are they supposed to do with their distress?
Right. They have to disconnect from it and be in another state.
Yeah. And that reminds me of in your book you talk about these sort of frozen, the frozen selves, and then the parts that aren't frozen. And I like the metaphor of the glaciers floating around frozen, and so the face of the glacier is interacting with the present, but it goes right down and has roots, and it's not really, it's frozen basically. Yeah.
The way the amygdala holds time, and how the amygdala can't integrate stuff. If things are stressful, the amygdala can't integrate stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, say that bit again, because that was important. If the amygdala,
well, the amygdala can't hold time. It doesn't have any time stamping.
Yeah.
So everything is always present time for the amygdala.
Yeah. No, that really helped me to explain trauma a bit more to my clients, and also what EMDR does, which is it helps to timestamp stuff. But that's going a bit off topic. I was interested because I mean, part of the reason for me writing the book was because I've sort of did a big life change at the age of 50 and relocated, had another child, tried to change professions, and in that came up against ways that I was kind of sabotaging myself. And one of the ways I realized this is when I was trying to sort of visualize a good outcome around something I wanted. But when I visualized having the outcome, I just realized that actually I wasn't really feeling anything, but I was feeling numb.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So obviously I got interested in what that was about, and, you know, the numbing, and, you know, from a Gestalt point of view, it's like, so what are you numbing? What do you feel would you connect with if you didn't numb? And so I realized for me there was something around receiving, and receiving didn't feel safe somehow, or receiving reminded me of losses. So out of awareness, I decided to numb. I'm pointing to my chest because it was there where I was feeling the numbing. And I was just curious, like from a neuroscience point of view, how would that be explained? How does numbing ourselves, and is that maybe what you've just been speaking to?
It has some things to do with what we've just been speaking to, but the experience of losing sensation appears to be a flooding of endogenous opioids in the brain. This comes from a shock. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and the reason they think that this is true
Yeah.
is because they were working with a group of vets who were dissociating and going numb. And when they gave them naloxone, naloxone is the anti-opiate remedy. It's the remedy for overdosing on opiates. Then a substantial portion of the veterans didn't have that sense of numbing anymore. Didn't have that sense of dissociation anymore. So that's why people have the theory that what the numbing is kind of a selective flood of endogenous opioids that takes out body sensation, or takes out the sense of self, or takes out the capacity to think clearly and be coherently and articulately responsive.
Wow, that's super interesting. That's very enlightening to hear that. And how would that explain then that, say, someone could be numb for years, until maybe they start doing therapy work?
Right. Well, two ways. One is that there's a continual rolling shock that's continually stimulating the person because their original trauma has not yet been resolved. Another possibility is kind of the second kind of dissociation, which has less to do with endogenous opioids and more to do with habit. If we've been raised, if we've been raised not to reference our body, if we've been raised to be numb, then a part of the brain in the right hemisphere that's called the insula doesn't light up. Just stays dark. It just stays dark. And this is part of avoidant attachment, and the healing from avoidant attachment is the awakening of the insula, so that we can connect to our own body and our own emotional experience and no longer be numb.
Again, super interesting. So there's two ways. It's sort of, if we just haven't learned to pay attention to our body, perhaps if that wasn't talked about, or if our parents perhaps were disembodied, so to speak, or disconnected. Or would it perhaps also be if we experience, I don't know, physical abuse, for example, or if someone experienced sort of something happening to their body where they were just disconnect from their body?
Interestingly, the research shows, this is the research of Ruth Lanius, who's done the most work with the insula and post-traumatic stress disorder. And the work of Ruth Lanius shows that that the kind of abuse that creates the most dissociation is actually verbal abuse. The kind that creates the very most dissociation is sexual abuse by a parent. But after that, the most dissociation comes from people verbally abusing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Because I would have thought it was the opposite.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's counterintuitive, isn't it?
Are there any sort of thoughts as to why that is?
Well, here we come to the sense of self again. You know, I mean, physical abuse is a blow to the body. But it's not a blow to the self. But verbal abuse is a blow to the self. It's a blow to the areas of the brain where the self is formed. And verbal abuse is often internalized and becomes a part of the default mode network.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Person's automatic voice in their brain is continually perpetuating the original verbal abuse. And then, of course, we would see some of that rolling shock that we talked about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, the rolling shock could be, I'm going to take this out now. I don't find it.
I think the quality is better without it. The rolling shock there, therefore, can be just what we've internalized about ourselves. I'm useless, I'm an idiot, for example, or whatever the verbal abuse was, and the impact of that, of believing that about ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really useful to know, because I know, when I'm working with clients, I tend to prioritize or think that the physical abuse was the one to pay more attention to. So it's interesting. Also, it just makes you think as a parent, and also how careful we have to be about how we talk to our children.
Yeah, and how we talk to ourselves, because even if we don't verbally abuse our children, if we were verbally abused and we're maintaining that pattern within us, then our child is learning to beat themselves up from our internal world, even if we're not saying it verbally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because a child knows their parent better than anybody else knows the parent. They live within the parent's container. They reproduce the parent's brain patterns with their own brain patterns.
Yes. I mean, you as you say, I'm remembering everything you said about that. I wrote down the world of our mother's womb affects our world. I can't remember. I took something you wrote from that, but so huge responsibility then as a parent, but
such a huge responsibility.
Moving on to that, I guess I had a curiosity, because you talked about attachment, and obviously it's about having just speaking to what we're talking about, the good enough attachment with a child, and also about heart rate variability, and the studies that show that people who are securely attached, they have high heart rate variability. And I just wondered if you could say a bit more about that, because again, that's fascinating. I mean, what do you specifically mean about heart rate variability? Because I read that it doesn't necessarily mean that you have the same heartbeat or the same amount of times the heartbeats per minute, for example. It's more about how you dance with life.
Well, this is the work of Stephen Porges, and part of what Stephen Porges' work shows is that there's a correlation between our heart rate variability and our attachment style. So part of the way that we self-regulate when we're in the presence of strong emotion is to put on the vagal brake, to slow heart rate variability so that we are less responsive to the emotions that are happening around us. It allows us to, it's like an adaptive strategy that allows us to turn the volume down on the emotions that we're experiencing and the emotions that the world is experiencing. And when we put on the vagal brake, then we slow heart rate variability, because variability is a function of the flow of energy and information in the vagus nerve. And tell me how interested you are in attachment and this basic attachment theory of the neurobiology of attachment and the vagus nerve. You're very interested or not?
I'm very interested. If you're interested to talk about it.
So when we are in a securely attached relationship where we have lots of butter on our croissant dough, and we have a sense of the person an internalized sense of the person who has been spreading the butter on our croissant dough, then we integrate them. They become a part of us. Our stress management system includes a connection to their brain. And the more we're held by sweet community, the more we have a community outsourced brain, which is what we're actually supposed to have as human beings. And then we are well resourced to survive the world. We're well resourced to deal with speed bumps, to solve problems, to create allyship with others, to work together, to have community, to enjoy one another. it just makes for very smooth sailing and for secure attachment. And in such a situation, we don't have to slow our heart rate variability in order to manage our stress. We've got a beautifully networked and outsourced brain where that is not what we have to do.
Yeah.
And so that's secure attachment, high heart rate variability, no need for the vagal brake.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we get into ambivalent attachment, which is very like secure attachment. It's the closest attachment style to secure attachment, but there are these moments of high emotion that are not regulated. We get really scared or really angry or really afraid, and because we are in ambivalent attachment, which is very close to secure attachment, we reach out for support. We're trying to reach out for support all the time. And we're trying to remedy this problem with the internalized networked brain. And our parents didn't have this experience regulated or resolved. So they're passing us a brain that knows it's supposed to have these connections, but doesn't have them, has a profound sense of not having them. So ambivalent attachment is the easiest attachment form to heal from.
Okay.
And then we have avoidant attachment, which is all vagal brake. It's so significantly vagal brake that we don't reach the highest levels of heart rate variability in avoidant attachment. And then we have ambivalent attachment, secure attachment, avoidant attachment. All of these are predictable. They're organized attachment. But then we have below the line of organization, we have disorganized traumatic attachment. And when we have that kind of attachment, then there are high spikes and low drops. We're moving not just into upset, we're also moving into dissociation. So there's a complete lack of predictability about whether or not we're going to be emotionally available. And so there we have an unpredictable heart rate variability because we're being thrown all over, like living in a tempestuous ocean storm all the time, without any smooth water.
Yeah. Well, thank you for explaining that so beautifully. And it leads to my next question, which is maybe a bit dumb, so forgive me. But because I notice that I feel confused as to what my attachment style is. Sometimes I think avoidant, because but other times I feel like that there are things about the avoidant style that don't fit for me. So then I think, well, actually it's more ambivalent. So I notice I can never quite decide on which one.
We are all kinds of attachment, depending on, it really depends on the relationship that we're in.
Yes.
So if we are predictably emotionally available to ourselves, then we have secure attachment with ourselves. We're predictably insulated against emotion. Then we have avoidant attachment with ourselves. If we can't get ourselves regulated and we're distressed and afraid of being left, we're in our ambivalent attachment with ourselves. If we're completely moving into dissociation or addiction or mental illness, then we are in our disorganized attachment with ourselves. But with each other person, depending on how responsive they are, we'll have a primary attachment style with them. And it will very much on how responsive we are to them and how responsive they are to us.
Okay, I like, So I like that. So we can have a sense of already attachment style by just looking at how we relate to ourselves, and that can be telling in itself. So if I notice that, I'd say probably ambivalent attachment style to myself, although I am actively working on that. That could so that might be likely to show up in relationship, but it's also relationship dependent. If I was relating with someone who had a secure attachment style, I might relate in a different way. Mhm.
And we can also tell our primary attachment style by looking at our companion animals. If you have a cat or a dog,
Okay.
you can look particularly to see how they are responsive to your departures and arrivals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because companion animals, cats and dogs, have the very same attachment styles with humans that humans have with each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I'm smiling because I'm thinking, well, I don't have any animals at the moment because I have 2 young children, but then I suppose it's the same way.
Yeah,
looking
the
at them.
children will reveal when we depart and return to them. Yeah, then
Yeah.
we get a huge
Yeah.
impact.
Yeah. But the good news is, right, that it is all changeable, which I knew, but it was nice to have it reaffirmed in your book
Yeah,
that it is possible to get this earned, secure attachment style by being in a better relationship with myself to begin with, and bring in
yeah,
warmth, acceptance to myself. Yeah, so that was really good news. But although I noticed that I just have a bit of a doubt at one point as I was reading, but I think I know the answers, but I'm going to say anyway. Part of me is like, well, but if I'm avoidant and now I can basically fix myself or heal myself by being with myself, am I not then just going to become even more self-sufficient and even more independent and hyper independent? Yeah.
What happens when we become more compassionate and warmly precise with our own selves is we just are starting to open the door to relationships with others, and relationships with others just become easier and easier. And then to kind of augment the work that we're doing with ourselves, if we have, the quickest way to healing attachment is through deep and intimate relationship.
Sure.
As long as we're organizedly attached, as long as we're secure, ambivalent, or avoidant.
Yeah.
The slowest way is not working on ourselves at all.
Sure.
Or that if we have disorganized attachment, then we really need outside help. Yeah.
And as you said, it's the steps that people can manage. So maybe the first step might be working on yourself a bit.
I had one person told me that I said to them, I wrote the book for people who didn't have an easy time with other humans so that they would have a starting point. And the person told me that they slept with the book in bed with them for the first year. Yeah. And I was like, that is exactly what I had hoped with.
I feel really warm hearing that, thinking of what that book meant for that person and that they were able to get that comfort in that way. Yeah. And also, just again thinking about you and really warm towards you, and that you're this purpose that you wanted, what you hoped for. How it would impact people.
Yeah. It was real sort of a dream come true for me.
Yeah. And I was coming back to the main thing of your book, the Resonant Self, because I was on a therapy training yesterday, and they were talking about the difference between compassion and empathy. And I know you can also talk about compassion, empathy, and sympathy, and how empathy can lead us to feeling. This is according to what I learned yesterday. Anyway, you may think differently. Can help lead us to feeling burned out.
There are 7 different definitions of empathy, so we never know what somebody's referring to. So if you want to define what it was that they were saying was empathy, that'll help me understand why they think that it makes people burn out.
So I think what they meant, as I understand what they meant by empathy, was when you were literally feeling the other person's feelings. So like as a therapist, you're in the room with the person who's feeling distraught, and you're literally you're feeling distraught with them. You're feeling that. And then obviously if you're doing that with client after client, you're going to burn out, but not just for a therapist. And they were saying that with compassion, it activates a different network, the network that makes you, that actually replenishes you, that doesn't deplete you.
Oh, it's sweet. Yeah. It sounds like they're using the word empathy to catch something that I call contagion, that neuroscientists call contagion.
Okay.
There's a choiceless accompaniment
Mm-hmm.
of somebody else's emotions.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But what I find with the resonance
Mm-hmm.
is that I love this is a metaphor that I love for this concept.
Mm-hmm.
Is and yes, I can maybe talk about resonance versus empathy in just a moment, but you've got a client and they're swimming in the ocean. It's big waves, but you know how to swim in big waves. So you go in the ocean with them and you're like, yeah, this is how we swim in big waves. Oh, grief. Yeah. Heck yeah. We know grief. We're good at swimming in grief. Oh, rage. Heck yeah. We know rage. We're good at swimming in rage. And it's a bit like with resonance, you have a helicopter come and drop a special safety swimmer into the ocean with you who can help you to swim and then also help you get out of the waves, get attached to the line on the helicopter and get taken up and be able to do the time travels and, you know, the kind of the bringing ourselves out of the sea of trauma that is timeless.
Yeah.
And so it's a special rescue, special rescue team. That's how I see resonance, which is quite a different idea than the idea that we have to be safe from emotion when we're working with people.
Yeah.
So my experience of what gets people burned out is not that they're experiencing contagion, but that they're experiencing helplessness. That they have some cellular conviction that they're supposed to be making a difference.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And they can't because we don't really, I mean, we show people how to swim, you know, and we get them and we help them get attached to the safety line and be pulled up. But we don't have to swim for them. There's a helplessness in the fixing, in the idea that we're supposed to fix. And that helplessness is always a precursor to burnout. Yeah.
That makes sense. Just having that huge responsibility, which is impossible to fulfill. But I like the image. I could really see the swimmer, the safe, whatever, the good swimmer coming along.
Yeah. This is
the words accompanied with came to mind to me, and that's what I was kind of with from your book. Really, this idea that I think you said it's never so much the trauma, the actual event that traumatizes us. It's the not having that acknowledged or validated by someone else.
Yeah, not having someone else understand it. Yeah, and to be able to swim with us. Oh, is this what this ocean is like? Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Oh, and then I wanted to say the difference for me between empathy and resonance.
Yes.
Is that you can feel empathy when you're driving in a car and you pass somebody who's unhoused, who's begging on the street. You can go, oh, my heart hurts. And you can make, very strong, likely valid guesses about the different kinds of emotional experience that person is having. That's all empathy. But for me, resonance takes us one step farther, which is into actual relationship. That in order to be resonant with the person who's unhoused on the street, we would have to be sitting beside them and asking them, do I understand you? Is it like this? And then they would get to say yes or no, and they would get to be in relationship with us. That the deep healing work that we do, the most important thing about it is that we're in there with somebody wondering if we understand. Wondering if we're capturing in words, facial expressions, gestures, a little bit about how that person is doing.
Yeah, it reminds me of what you said, and it doesn't even matter if the guess is are wrong. It's the fact that someone is here trying to guess and be interested, even if they get it wrong, and then you have to say to them, no, it's not.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't feel that. I felt this, for example.
Somebody guessing, getting it wrong, but then course correcting, moving toward, is this a little closer?
Yeah.
That's a little closer, but you're still not understanding this.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important reminder as well, as a therapist, but also just as a parent or as a person, that it's not, I think you can easily get lost in techniques or this or that, or trying to get an outcome for the client, but actually often it is the relationship process leads to an outcome, even though it's not necessarily directly addressing the person's addiction issues, for example.
Right.
Yeah. There's something else I wanted to ask. I'm just aware of the time, that I'm attempting to talk about in my book, and which you also talk about or reference, which is this, what I call making myself small. So noticing that I had a part that would sort of sabotage just when something good was going to happen. So I was interested in acting for a while, and I was connecting beautifully with my emotions and my character and the person I was acting with, until the day of the kind of being graded on it, and then I would somehow just not connect anymore. And this happened a couple of times, and it also happened as a child with something else. So my understanding was it was somehow something about actually showing myself, here I am and achieving, and then I was sort of sabotage in some way. And I was connecting it with sort of somehow it feels safer to stay small. And then you wrote something, we're expressing bigger energy than our family of origin enjoyed, or was originally safe. We can shame ourselves into submission. And I was just interested in your take on it, because that seemed to connect with my experience, my process.
Well, there's a second book called the Your Resonant Self Workbook, which is all about the unconscious contracts that we make, that are procedural learning that we carry non-verbally inside of ourselves, in our basal ganglia, which is different from the amygdala. It's the part of the brain that knows how to ride a bike, or knows how to walk and keep our balance and carry something at the same time that we're walking. It's like there's this procedural memory and internalized nonverbal world that tells us how to respond in any given situation. And so if we were to kind of time travel to you in the moment where you were having to deal with the stress of judgmental eyes upon you, assessing critical eyes upon you, then we would freeze everybody in the room and just be with you, if it was okay with you. And we would first acknowledge the helplessness, the hopelessness, the stopping breathing, perhaps, of being criticized, of being assessed. And so then just check and see, how does your past self respond to that, wondering whether that's a little bit of what's happening.
Yes, it was, but even more so, it was just feeling a bit numb and disconnected. So I think the helplessness might have been there, but that wasn't even.
As we've mentioned, numb and disconnected is all about the nervous system being, well, we didn't quite name it, but it being in dorsal vagal. And that happens with helplessness or hopelessness.
Yeah.
And shock.
Yeah.
So we want to, we'll presuppose that you had previous experiences, maybe early in school, where you were being judged and it was shocking. And so your system goes into preemptive shock. Like, wow. So then then we're making your unconscious contract verbal. It hasn't been verbal to this point. We know it's something like, I will shut myself down when I'm being judged. And now we want to say, in order to
Mm-hmm.
And the in order tos are most powerful if they reference our mom or dad.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be an early teacher. So I will shut myself down in order to. Do you want to take a stab at what your in order to might be?
In order to avoid my parents' wrath, anger.
Oh, yeah, that's very
yeah.
important. Yeah, the word wrath tells us that it was big.
Yeah.
It was big, and it was scary, and it was dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No matter then the last part of the contract is no matter the cost to myself. I mean, we are really battening down the hatches to survive here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now that we've named that,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a little bit new because you probably never put the numbness together with shock and the shock of parents having wrath and the experience of hopelessness or helplessness and just needing to shut down and survive.
Wow, that's super helpful. Just even to make that connection, which I hadn't made before, that connection around shock and just tracing back.
Yeah, when it's a connection we haven't made before, we're actually moving where the brain holds the procedural memory. We're moving it out of the basal ganglia into the left and right hemispheres to be able to be examined. Now that we've got it out here where we can look at it, we get to say, Alexandra, do you still need this contract? It was very important when you were little. Do you still need it now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get to say, oh, I don't guess I need it now. My parents is no longer an issue, for example.
Yeah. That's super helpful.
And then to create something new.
Mm-hmm.
And I release this contract and I give you my blessing to instead, when you know people are judging you, instead of having, and when you know you're being assessed, instead to, what would you like to do instead of closing down? Something warm and compassionate for your young self and for your present day self. Go ahead. What would you like to do for yourself in those moments?
So probably offer some warmth, compassion, understanding for the part of me that feels fearful.
Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah.
How does your body do? What happens you physically as we touch this? Oftentimes there's a sensation of change in body sensations.
Yeah. Yeah, I notice I feel a little bit more expansion. Yeah. You know, so the way you're talking about working is kind of what I do in attachment informed EMDR to an extent. But what I think you bring is also the more of the neuroscience, the knowledge around it. You know, like I wouldn't necessarily think, oh, if a client's numbing, it's because they received a shock, so let's go back in time. So we do go back in time, and but we just kind of trust the process. But I feel like having this extra knowledge can refine the going back in time and really refine what we should be looking at.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm aware. I mean, I could ask you many more questions, but I'm aware of the time and on your time.
Thank you.
So really, that what you've said is super helpful. Yeah. So we want to say thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. It's a pleasure to be with you, and it's fun to imagine your little kids there.
Well, it's gone quiet now, so I'm hoping that well, they are okay and maybe sleeping. Okay.
All right. Lovely to be with you.